Hello, welcome back to the Max Out Your Life podcast. Today we were talking about eating more to lose weight. We're talking about metabolism and why this is a big part of why people can't lose weight, can't gain muscle, and overall they don't have the body that they want because they don't quite understand metabolism and don't make a big enough focus of talking about it. So should be a good one. I think this is something that, you know, a lot of different clients I work with from all ages and all backgrounds, this is something they really struggle with. I mean, What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, even for myself, just recently, didn't fully understand. And I've had a lot of conversations with my wife, friends, and people in the gym that kind of wonder the same thing.
Yeah.
Like what it's all about and how to actually change your body.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are those conversations you were having with them specifically?
I know, like, I don't know, 2 years ago, I started just eating more food, and my body kind of drastically changed pretty quick. And I had some people wonder why or what happened, and just kind of going through the conversation of just eating more, making sure my body had energy to work out, and kind of with my wife, just walking through her, like building her calories up and not keeping her super low, and just like things that people don't necessarily talk about a lot. And I mean, there's a lot more to it than you think.
Well,
it's a simple concept, but
yeah, and I think it's one of those things that people talk about, like, metabolism, but they don't actually like know like what it is.
Yeah, it's just like, I have a slow metabolism, or when I was a kid, my metabolism was crazy. I could eat whatever I wanted, and now I can't do that, which there's truth to that, but if you followed along your age progression, you would probably be fine.
Well, and if you look at that, it's like, as you get older, like you said, a lot of people say my metabolism slows down, but it's like, okay, well, how active are you now compared to when you were 9? You know what I mean? Like, and while you may have not been quote unquote going into the gym lifting weights, when you're 9, you're carrying in groceries, and you're, swinging off a swing and jumping off the couch, and you're doing all these different things that, like, as you get an adult, like, you stop doing. And so that's a big part of what's happening, because metabolism is not just the calories that you're burning in a workout. It's your total daily energy expenditure, or TDEE, right? And so metabolism in and of itself is like your body's like ability of getting energy out of the food, out of your calories. And so when you try to teach people that concept, or the way that I guess that I try to teach them that concept, is this analogy of wood in a fire. And so if you look at this and you say, okay, so the more wood that I have in my fire, the bigger the flame burns, right? The bigger the fire is. And so when you look at food, it's the same thing. When I'm eating more food, my metabolism is going to be higher and it burns hotter to a certain degree, right? Obviously, like, if you start eating 10,000 calories a day, I mean, you're not The Rock, you know what I mean? But I mean, there's also a reason why he can eat like that. We won't get into that today. And so when you look at it like that, it's like, okay, well, how much muscle do I actually have on my body? Not that you need to be like a bodybuilder by any means, but the more you're able to maintain muscle, the higher metabolism is going to be. The more overall active you are, the more calories you're burning. So all of these things affect the overall metabolism, or your total daily energy expenditure, the TDEE, and all of these things make it up. Because if you look at fitness for a second, fitness makes up anywhere from like 5 to 10% of your overall calorie burn for the entire day, for your whole day.
Yeah, because you're only working out for 1-2 hours or less, maybe.
Or less, yeah, exactly. And so when people put too much of an emphasis on that and not enough emphasis on the things outside of the gym, that's where you start having a lot of these issues with metabolism as a whole.
Do you think that's where most people go wrong? They see it as, kill yourself in a workout, you should be losing weight.
Yeah, I mean, it's always about, I think the way people are looking at it is, it's always about how many calories can I burn off of this? How many calories can I burn? It's like, that's not the end all be all, So we look at the difference between cardio, and when I say cardio, I mean, like, we're going to say just go out and run, or hop on a treadmill, or something along those natures, compared to strength training. While calories, generally speaking, are going to burn, or cardio is going to burn more calories than strength training. Strength training is going to allow you to keep your metabolism up because it's focused on the actual muscle, whereas cardio is just burning calories. And then you have, like recently was seeing some of these studies, they're showing about like the difference in what is called EPOC, so that afterburn effect that everyone's always talking about. I used to be in the camp of like, the EPOC is that big of a difference and it's all about the muscle, all about strength training because of EPOC. But what I've come to understand it and what they're showing in these studies is like, the actually difference in the afterburn isn't as great. So it's not doing strength training for EPOC, it's doing strength training because it's just maintaining the muscle in the first place that allows me to keep my metabolism up. Especially when you start looking at clients that are 40 and over. I've got a whole bunch of clients all over the country that are 40 and up. And at the age of 40, you start losing muscle at a 1 to 3% per year. So when that's going on and I'm losing that muscle, well, that's why people say, well, my metabolism is slowed down, because you're losing muscle and then you're not doing anything to either A, try to build it, or B, maintain it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you're not training and you're older, that rate is going to go even faster. But if you don't have muscle, like even if you're 40, you can still put on a lot of muscle, because that's kind of based off like your peak. And if you're not really at your peak when you're 40, you can definitely still be put on muscle, which is going to increase your metabolism.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think that's a really good point. I think that's something that, a lot of people, well, I'm too old. I can't get into the gym. It's like, well, maybe you're not going to lift the things that you were lifting when you were 20, but there's no reason why you can't be in the gym and doing something. I mean, I have a client that's almost 70, and, he got really bad sickness about 5-6 years ago, to the point where he lost about 50 or 60 pounds. And when he came back, when this guy left, he was, like I said, he was still in his early 60s, and he would knock out 20 strict pull-ups. This guy's, like I said, lower 60s. He's what, 5'8", 5'9"? How old would you? How tall would you say he is? Yeah. $160, here he is knocking out, 20 strict pull-ups like it's not a big deal. Then a year later, when I saw him after all the surgeries and all that kind of stuff, he walks in at like, I think he was like 120 or 115 or something like that. It was like, whoa. Once he told me what had happened and all these stuff that he had going on, he was like, all right, I just want to get strong. I was like, cool. So we started just with 8 kilo kettlebell and did what he could. And the point I'm getting at with all of this is like, no matter what your age is, you have the ability to be able to get strong. You have the ability to be able to put muscle on, and that's a direct effect in what your metabolism is going to look like.
Yeah, and you guys focus strength training with him, pretty much every single session.
Every session, yeah.
And his, lean muscle mass to body weight ratio is probably really high. He's really lean for being upper 60s.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And he's strong.
He's really strong.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got limitations because he's got a bunch of shrapnel in his hips that's never going to come out, and another issues that he's had over his course of military career. But he's able to get in here and he's doing something. And I think that's the most important part about fitness as a whole, is just getting in there and not allowing the imperfectness of your life to keep you from getting started. So many people do that, and I think that's backwards of looking at it.
Yeah. So strength training is definitely a key component to increasing metabolism. Another one would be actually eating more food. What has the conversations been like when you've had to tell your clients or people that you need to eat more food to lose weight?
It honestly kind of blows people's mind. They can't seem to understand it. They're like, wait, what? I need to eat more to lose weight? And it's like, well, yeah, because you've eaten so little for so long that it's reset your metabolic point down to here. We'll say like 1,200 calories. That seems to be a very common, diet that's out there, is a 1,200 calorie diet that I really wish we could get rid of. I wish we could kill that diet for sure. And it's that we need to increase your metabolism, because at the point of when you're eating 1,200 calories, the only way that you're going to lose any more weight is by eating less, which means you're now going to be eating 800 or 900 calories a day. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, good luck functioning.
Yeah, exactly. And at that level, you're talking about some massive issues, from sleep to fatigue to not being able to function or focus at work, or much less in a workout. Like that's definitely not happening. And when you start eating that little, now you're talking about actually losing muscle, which is lowering your metabolism even more. And it's just like it's a never ending battle at that point.
Yeah, because if you're not eating enough, you can't fuel the muscle, so you can't gain any muscle.
Exactly.
So it's just atrophying at the same time. You're literally doing twice the amount of damage going that low.
Exactly. And the biggest issue that the people have with it is not only this concept of, wait a second, I need to eat more, but it's also about doing it a little bit at a time. So what we're trying to do is not say, okay, if you need to be eating, let's say 1,800 calories, that's pretty typical for a female, and they're eating 1,200. We don't do that overnight. You know, we maybe bump it up 100 calories a week, something along those lines. So it's slow and gradual, so it's a lot easier to absorb and to actually do it, and to do it forever. Because if I go from 1,200 to 1,800 overnight, I'm going to feel bloated. I'm not going to feel good. My stomach's already going to be stretched, and then it doesn't lend itself to the client being compliant, which is the overall biggest issue with people as a whole, is compliance. They do something for 2 weeks and then fall off. Then that means I'm not actually helping them as their coach. Like, I need to figure out a way to keep them on track and keep them consistent. And obviously, yeah, we're all going to have our bad days, but as a whole, if we're moving forward, then that's our job as coaches.
Yeah. So when you have a client that's been under eating for a long time, what are like some of the barriers that you have to try and get through, like to get them to start reversing out, to avoid that metabolic adaptation and start increasing that metabolism?
The biggest conversation is honestly getting them just to buy into the concept first. That seems to be the hardest thing. And once again, if I go back to the way that I'm actually applying it is by doing a small amount at a time. Some people, they work really well with calories. Most people that I work with, they don't. Calories and macros are a great thing to understand, but tracking food all the time can just be very cumbersome, and it's just not something they enjoy. So generally it looks something like, hey, I want you to add a half a cup of oatmeal somewhere in your day. That's it. Or if we're focused on protein at that point, maybe I'm saying, hey, I want you to eat 2 whole eggs at breakfast, or something along those lines. Like, I talk to them and help them. I ask them questions to figure out what's the easiest thing to add into their life. So it's not me telling them what to do. It's actually me figuring out what works best for them instead of the other way around. Because what I found is when we used to do like meal plans and say, just eat this, eat this, eat this, it sounds good on the surface until the day something doesn't go right and perfectly in the day, and then they fall off track. So instead, I'd say something along the lines of, okay, so we need to be eating, we need to add some more food in. At this point, we'll say that the protein's the easiest, or the thing that you're the lowest in, so we need to bump that up. What's the easiest meal that we can add protein in? And they'll say, you know what, breakfast, I'm really good at breakfast. I'm like, all right, cool. What is breakfast going to look like for you? And then they're like, well, I could do, like, maybe I'll do eggs. But as soon as they say maybe, that's lending itself to, I might not do it, right? Like, so instead we come up with a very, very clear plan of 3 to 4 things that could work, and then possibilities that would trip them up over the next 2 weeks in order to hit that, so that it's focusing on one thing every 2 weeks. It's allowing them to not be overwhelmed, and at the end of those 2 weeks, for most people anyways, they crush it. And when you get that momentum of, oh my gosh, I can do this, when we get later on down the road and we start working on harder things, it's way easier for them to stick to the harder things when they've built up the momentum to do the easier things in the beginning.
Yeah, just building the small wins over time.
Exactly.
Getting the confidence up, building the habit of eating more, or just making small changes, because then it's not nearly as drastic
of a
change.
Yeah, and that's what trips people up, is the all or nothing approach. I'm gonna throw everything out of my cabinets and go from working out none to working out 5 days a week, and it's just too much. It's just way too much. You gotta slow it down, focus on one thing every 2 weeks, and then prioritize those things so that it makes it simple. If every single day you wake up and you realize that you only got one thing to do, like, life's pretty easy at that point.
Yeah, it's definitely not nearly as stressful.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
Do you have any like major client stories or battles that you've fought through with anybody in particular?
Yeah, so there's a couple of clients. The first one that popped in my head, the client that I've been working with for about 4 or 5 years now, and she has really struggled with her weight pretty much her whole life. And so when she first came to me, it was all about, she just wanted to lose weight, And I told her, I was like, look, you can either have weight loss forever or you can have it right now. I was like, which one would you rather have? And she's like, I want it forever. I'm like, awesome. So if you want it forever, then we have to change the way that you've done things, because if we continue to do things the way you've done it always, then you're going to get the same results, which is stuck, overwhelmed, and wondering why this just isn't working for you. And so once we took a step back and we started working on this whole concept of working on one thing at a time, teaching her how to actually fuel her body and what fuel actually meant, then it was a lot easier for her to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. And now it's been 4 or 5 years, and I don't think we're ever actually where we want to be in life. It's like, all right, well, I'm gonna lose that weight, or I'm gonna build this muscle, or I'm gonna hit this new max on my lift, and then you get there and you're like, okay, well, now I want to go more.
Mm-hmm. Never satisfied.
Yeah, you're never really satisfied, I feel like, anyways. And I feel like, going off on a little tangent here, having that ability to be able to always want more allows you to always see progress, because most people fall off once they can make it to that initial little spit. Most people fall off about a year to 2 years. People fall off because the novelty wears off. Those newbie gains start to wear off, and it's like, okay, so are you really doing the right things to make progress? And I think that's where people get hung up at. And so if you can always be looking to the next thing, it makes it a lot easier to continue to move forward in your life and make fitness an overall lifestyle thing instead of just something you did for this little short span of your life.
Yeah, I think what you asked your client is, do you want weight loss for a lifetime or right now, is huge. Because for most people it is like, I have a vacation in 8 weeks and I need to lose a lot of weight. And maybe they do, but then they're done at that point. They have no goal or purpose afterwards, except until the next vacation rolls around, then they have to completely restart. Whereas if they would have just ingrained the habits like your client did, then from that point they can just carry that forward and get healthier and healthier and stronger and build a lifestyle, rather than just I'm going to suffer for 8 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, because anybody could suffer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I see this that time and time again, and so it gets frustrating, because eventually when people go through that process like so many times, I know you've heard this a lot too in the clients that you've worked with, they just, well, this is just how I am. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, no, it's not. You just keep doing things the same way and you're expecting a different result. You have to do something different. And this is the way to do things different. I mean, that's exactly why this whole podcast is even coming about, is to get this message out to people that it's not, don't keep doing don't keep doing things the way you've been doing them. Like, do them differently, and I promise you will get a different result. I mean, talk to anybody who's made any sort of huge transformation in their life, and they'll tell you that's how you have to do it. It's one day at a time, one thing at a time, and you got to be flexible with it.
Yeah. Build the discipline, get the habit, and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So people that are stuck, like maybe they have tried diets, or maybe they are currently working out and they're not seeing results, what do you think is maybe holding them back, or what do you think is something that they need to do moving forward?
I think people need to, first off, they need to set realistic goals. I think that's a big thing that messes them up. When proper expectations are not set and you feel like you're not getting anything out of the work you're putting in, you quit. I mean, that's just human nature, right? Same thing for you. If you went to the gym every single day and you never got any stronger and never saw any benefit, you'd be like, why am I doing this, right?
Yeah.
And I think people also set an unreal expectation of how long they think something's going to take. Go back to your example you just gave, was perfect, talking about I got vacation in 8 weeks and I need to lose 50 pounds. It's like, wait, what? That's nuts, man. That's an unreal expectation. And whether or not they hit that goal or not, most people don't. In that example, they're going to gain the weight back. So setting those proper expectations, and this one phrase that I say with my clients all the time, think big, but go small. It's actually a quote I got from this really good book called The One Thing. It's absolutely amazing. And so I'd say the third part of that, just to be flexible, myself included. It's really easy to say, well, if I'm not going to do things perfectly, I'm just not going to do it. Right. And so here it is Wednesday, and you eat something unhealthy, right? And you go, I'll wait to get back on track next week. And it's like, what? No.
Yeah.
It's Wednesday. Like, we're getting back on track tomorrow. And it's because I want to be perfect, or I want to start on Monday kind of mentality, instead of saying, no, I'm going to start today. I'm going to start right now. I'm going to do the smallest thing that I can possibly do. And that's where people get messed up with that.
Yeah. I wonder why that's a mindset that we have, is like the week has to be perfect, or if you mess up, it's
not
all
worth it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know where that comes from, but I mean, I've definitely done it myself before, where like in the gym, like, I missed my first 2 workouts because I got busy. I guess I'll just start the program over on Monday. It's like,
no, just keep going. Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of it comes down to these different quotes that I absolutely hate. And one of them is the, go hard or go home, no pain, no gain. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate those so much. Like, so much. And I think it's when you look at fitness like that, well, if it doesn't hurt, then I'm not making progress. No pain, no gain. It's like, no, I'm not saying don't work hard, but I'm saying you don't have to work like stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How important would you say it is to have a coach or accountability, or like people in your corner trying to work on like increasing your metabolism, getting more food, going to the gym? Like, how important is accountability in that regard?
I think it's huge. I mean, accountability is one of the biggest things that will either make or break you. Now, that accountability could literally be accountability to yourself, accountability to a friend, accountability to a coach. But if you don't have it, and I mean like actual accountability, then you're going to fail, period. A lot of times when people have a quote unquote accountability friend, the problem with that is that their friend doesn't actually hold them accountable.
Too easy on them.
Way too easy on them. And I'm not saying like, I mean, you know me, man, I don't yell at people, but I also, if we set a plan in place, like, I'm going to hold you to that plan, right? And if it's constantly something that you're not following through with, then that's my opportunity as a coach to help find out why. Maybe the plan was a little too aggressive. Maybe the expectations weren't set. Maybe, education drives compliance. So maybe there's an educational part to this that the client doesn't quite understand, that we need to revisit. It's a constant, like, move forward and assess, move forward and assess. It's like health as a whole is all about making small adjustments, and not saying that I'm going to go from here to my goal. It's, I'm going to make an adjustment, and then I go to this spot and I make another adjustment, another adjustment, another adjustment. And that's what really the coach is. It's like, honestly, hiring a coach is very much like a GPS. Right, you put in your destination to the GPS. The GPS tells you where to turn, things to look out for ahead, and that's exactly what having a coach is. So if you don't have that accountability, then you're not going anywhere. You're just going to tread water and stay in the same place.
Yeah, and I think that's the main reason why a lot of people aren't succeeding.
For sure.
They are too lazy with themselves, or they're too hard on themselves. There's no one to keep them on track when they do fail, or to monitor what they're doing to see if it is too much or too little, or even if they're doing the right thing. Like,
exactly,
you might not even be training for the purpose of your goal. Kind of back to that cardio thing. Like, if you didn't have a coach or someone that kind of knew what they were talking about, and you were running for like an hour a day at the same pace every single day, and your goal was to put on muscle mass, like, you're in a far...
Yeah, you're so far off, it's not going to happen. Yeah, it's that kind of what I like to call the Instagram model, is they see that that person on Instagram is the influencer, go, oh, well, look at what they're doing. It's like, well, what they're not telling you is a lot of them are taking steroids. A lot of them train 2 to 3 hours a day, and it's literally their profession to look the way they look.
Like prepped food, personal chefs, like
all that kind of stuff.
they got everything planned out.
Exactly. And so once again, the expectation's not set. And so because they're just kind of doing what looks good instead of what they actually need to do, that's why people get stuck, because they always want fancy instead of simple. The basics work.
Yep.
Like deadlift, squat, lunge, pull, push, carry. Boom. That's all you really need. And when you stick to the basics, like fitness becomes a lot easier. And same thing with nutrition. When you stick to the basics, it becomes a lot easier. Stress management, when you stick to the basics, life becomes a lot easier. And that's exactly what we do with the Max Out Your Life program, is we simplify the process. So we take the guesswork out of it so that it makes it simple, so that you can actually create habits. If you don't create habits, you're not going anywhere. And you can only create habits if you can be consistent. And you can only be consistent if we make it simple and we make it fun. And when you have all those things combined, bam. Not only do you get to your result, but you keep your result for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So as far as metabolism go, work out, lift weights, try and lift heavy, put on some muscle, and then make sure you're eating enough food. Yep.
Lift heavy, lift often, eat enough food that your body actually needs, is more than you think, and get good sleep. Don't forget sleep. Because the gains and the recovery, the building of metabolism, all of these things happen actually in the recovery, not in the breakdown, not in the actual workout itself. It happens from how much you're eating, how much water you're drinking, are you managing your stress, all that kind of stuff. So that's the biggest point I hope people take away from this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Chip chow.
Ciao.